It's there, but will you and can you take it?
Women made up a quarter of my class at university. I know our class fared especially well, but I know other groups where the women didn't end up sticking to engineering. It's a tough discipline that requires constantly keeping up to date, and social pressures and expectations on women are such that many end up doing something much easier.
In China, like many places around the world, a husband's career is still seen as more important than the wife's. Meng Chu acknowledges she's lucky for having a supportive husband, but admits that the long hours required of Baidu's research and development team deters many women. Mao Zedong once said that women hold up half the sky, but at many companies in China, that's not necessarily the case. What Baidu shows us is that of all places where women can find opportunity in China, it's in the fast-paced tech sector. Melissa Chan, Al Jazeera, Beijing.
This is Al Jazeera, and these are the stories making headlines. Libya's state television has denied reports that Colonel Gaddafi tried to strike a deal with the rebels that would have seen him step down. Gaddafi reportedly sent a representative to make a proposal to the opposition's so-called National Council that's based in Benghazi. It said he wanted guarantees of his safety and immunity from prosecution. The council apparently rejected that offer. Meanwhile, anti-Gaddafi forces have been calling for international help in their fight against the government. This after heavy fighting in towns in the west of the country. Close to the capital, Tripoli, the rebels have now lost control of AlZazeera, and they've been losing ground in other cities as well. President Obama says Washington and its allies are still considering a military response to the crisis in Libya, and Gulf Arab leaders have been calling for the UN to enforce a no-fly zone. In Bahrain, Shia Muslims have been staging more protests against the country's Sunni royal family. But on the Monday, the protesters turned their anger against the US. Around 200 people held a rally outside the US embassy, demanding that Washington end its support for the monarchy. The protesters have been camping out at Manama's Pearl roundabout since last month, but only won minor concessions. And in Kuwait, too, youth groups have been calling for protests on Tuesday. As in previous days, they are demanding the Prime Minister step down and for greater freedom. The Al-Sabah family has ruled the Gulf state for more than 250 years. Political parties are not allowed there, and neither is this planned demonstration, which hasn't been given permission by the government. In Pakistan, a car bomb has killed at least 7 people. It happened in the eastern city of Faisalabad. Dozens of other people were also injured in the attack. And 18 people have been killed in a shootout in Mexico. Rival drug gangs fighting a turf war in Tamaulipas state are being blamed. The border state is a major transit point for drug smuggling into the US. More than 35,000 people have been killed in drug-related violence in Mexico in just 4 years. And in Côte d'Ivoire, opposition fighters have reportedly seized the town of Touleplou, previously held by troops backing the incumbent president Laurent Gbagbo. Gun battles have been raging as the standoff between Gbagbo and Alassane Ouattara, the winner of November's election, continue. Those are the main stories here on Al Jazeera. We'll have another full bulletin of news in half an hour, coming up after 101 East.
has long been proud of its diverse ethnicity, cultures and spiritual beliefs. But recent attacks against minority groups like the Ahmadiyya sect and on Christian churches have many claiming that religious intolerance is on the rise here. I'm Fauzia Ibrahim. On this edition of 101 East, we ask just what does religious freedom mean in multicultural Indonesia?
Outnumbered, police stand by as a mob attacks homes in Buntan, West Java, Indonesia. They belong to Ahmadiyya, a sect who say they are Muslims, but who believe their founder was the final prophet rather than Muhammad. It's a belief that's deeply offensive to the vast majority of Indonesia's 209 million Muslims. But this amateur video showing the crowd stripping 3 Ahmadiyya men naked, stoning and beating them to death has shocked the nation. It is too gruesome to show here. The number of attacks against religious minorities in Indonesia has surged in the last year. As a result, Ahmadiyya followers in Lombok are to be forcibly moved to this almost deserted island nearby, a move the provincial government say is for their own safety. For Kai Rudin, it's the first time he's seen his potential new home.
Menurut saya terutama bagus lah.
I think the island looks comfortable.
Bagus, nyaman juga udara.
The air is fresh and I don't mind living here as long as facilities such as electricity and school is provided and safety as well. I'm excited.
Every moment is recorded for 200 SEC members back home. The island's sole resident, whose job is to guard the palm trees, tells them on camera he's not happy with Ahmadiyya moving here. But these men have no home. In 2006, they were forced to abandon this village in Lombok when a neighbouring community forced them out. When some Ahmadiyya members tried to return late last year, their houses were looted. The movement's regional head says such incidents are rarely investigated.
Authorities haven't arrested any perpetrators of the attacks, and they don't actively try to solve the case. We had to report to the police station directly to get them to pursue the case. This shows authorities' lack of support and commitment to enforce the law.
Mungkinkah kau masih mengharapkanku?
22 Ahmadiyya families now live in this shelter in Lombok's capital, Mataram. Young and old crammed together in fetid makeshift tents. Kai Rudin says many here have been denied citizenship cards, which makes it hard for some children in the shelter to access Indonesia's education and health services.
To be honest, we don't like living here, but since this is a matter of defending our faith and beliefs, then we have to accept the conditions. We are forced to accept it.
The district head acknowledges his idea to move Ahmadiyya followers onto an island 60 kilometres away from Lombok is contentious, but says it's in their best interests.
Kita tidak memberikan solusi menyangkut juga hak asasi.
Perhaps the relocation solution could be seen as a violation of human rights, but for the local government it's a good solution. Why they're being isolated is because characteristically they're keen on an exclusive system of society.
Harmony is a selling point for an island trying to be a tourist mecca like neighbouring Bali. Zainia Roni says Ahmadiyya's exclusive and elitist approach to their faith triggers suspicion amongst mainstream Muslims.
Ini secara kemanusiaan.